And without further ado, I'll leave it to you and to hear the highlights of this year's report. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Good to see everybody. Here we are again.
Yes.
Just for those who are newer to the report, how about if you give a little overview of the history of the report, how you put it together, obviously geographies that it covers,
Sure.
and then the metrics that go into the impact report.
Great. Thanks so much, Merrill. Good to see everybody. So this report is our fourth report now we've done together. And as we're moving forward, what we did is we looked at the spending by the professional sports teams and the collegiate sports team. I think a lot of times when we look at the sports sector, we don't think about this group as an industry. When people think about Los Angeles, they think of Hollywood as an industry. They think of even aerospace as an industry. But the thing is, when it comes to sports entertainment, they think of it as events, and they don't really group it together in terms of economic impact. That's why we looked at this professional sports teams in Los Angeles and Orange County. Combined together, we have 12 professional sports teams, and then also combining the collegiate sports teams combined together, this is one of the most robust sports entertainment sector in the entire world. And that's why we want to make sure we're able to quantify the numbers.
Great. And as we go into that, what is in the numbers?
The numbers are great. So last year, the total economic impact, looking at spending, looking at job created, we're talking about this industry contributing about $12.1 billion in economic impact to the local economy. $12.1 billion. It supported 92,970 jobs, direct, indirect, and induced. That's a lot of jobs. In comparison, this is the size of a mid-sized, smallest size U.S. city. So Burbank, for example, is around that population. Imagine the entire city of Burbank being employed by one single industry. That's the power of this industry. Additionally, for our elected officials and government officials, this is also very good for our state coffers because this is about $726 million in taxes for state and local government systems so that we can actually pay for roads and infrastructure as well. So this industry has contributed significantly to our region.
Amazing. I think we're the second largest sports market in the world, as I understand it.
Yes. New York has more professional sports teams, but the thing is, New York also counts New Jersey. That's a separate state, right? We don't have to count a different state. So I would like to challenge that. I would like to say that we are.
So huge numbers, obviously, big impact. How was growth overall?
So we were looking at the numbers before. Sorry, I'm looking at my slides because the numbers I haven't memorized yet. This is actually a preview in many ways because after this conference is when the report's actually officially released. So this is brand new data, brand new information. And as Matt was mentioning before, I'm a data nerd, so I get very excited about data, but I don't think many of you are not. But hopefully we can convince you guys to be as excited about the data as we are. The reason why it's so exciting is because this is not just numbers, right? This is actually equivalent to job opportunities, to economic investment in this region. So to your question, when we start tracking this in 2021, the economic impact for this industry was about $7 billion. Over the last 4 years, from 2021 to 2024, that number has increased to $12.1 billion.
Wow.
That's $5.1 billion more than it was in 2021. That's a big number.
That's definitely big. What's driving it?
Professional sports is driving about 84% of the total compared to the collegiate. But the growth as well as the number of new teams, new stadiums, new interests. The reason why I'm looking at the numbers as well is I apologize in advance. I'm a bit jet lagged. I just got back from Japan last week. And one of the reasons why I went to Japan is we went on a trade mission with about 67 Californian delegates to track foreign direct investment into Los Angeles and to California. Japan has been looking very carefully into this market. One of the reasons is because this is such a big sports market. Another number that's not in this report, we've been working with our friends over at the LA Tourism and Convention Board. From 2023 to 2024, we saw a 91% increase from Japanese visitors to Los Angeles. 91%. And of that 91% increase, 85% of them went to 2 or more Dodger games. they came for Ohtani and Sasaki as well and Yamamoto, but the impact is huge. So when it comes to economic spending, that's why we're so eager to basically make sure that this is now on the world stage. Because when we're able to attract attention to this sector, the international community, they will come, they will spend, they will support us. And so that's why I'm looking at the numbers as well, because I'm a bit jet lagged, I haven't remembered all the numbers. So apologies in advance, but go ahead.
That's quite a big difference in tourism, for our community and for our Dodgers games as well.
Yeah.
Comparable to maybe what Caitlin Clark's done for the WNBA. So going on that, obviously, some attendance increasing and drive there for Dodgers. Where else are you seeing attendance increasing?
Well, across the board, you see a lot of different sporting events are happening across the way. Before I move on, I forgot to answer the second part of your question. Growth is not just spending. Growth is also jobs. Another number that's been really, really significant, which we touched on, is back in 2021, the jobs that were supported by this sector is about 39,690 jobs. This year, the jobs are now 92,970 jobs. That's about 93,000 jobs. We more than doubled the number of jobs that are available in this sector. So besides spending, again, I keep on going back to jobs because as an economic developer, we want to have good paying jobs in this entire region to support us, and this sector is doing so. So in terms of your other question, what's driving the growth, right? When you have major championship, major events that are happening here, it's drawing attention to the professional sports teams that are here. So knowing that we have, for example, the Grand Prix over in Long Beach, you have CONCACAF, you have all these different sporting events that are happening in the Los Angeles region because you have amazing facilities like this that just opened recently. So it's attracting a lot of attention. And because of that, you're seeing also an increase in awareness, an increase in attendance. So for example, the Rams, their average attendance and capacity, they're now at about 73,000 attendees for their games. By the way, capacity is at 70.
70, right?
They're over capacity most of the time, right?
That's all the tailgaters I'm hanging with every day.
That's exactly it. But the Chargers, the Dodgers, the Angels, the Galaxy, they're all the same, right? They're actually increasing this attendance. And also collegiate sports teams, a lot of attention's been paid. We'll talk about it a bit later in terms of, for example, UCLA and USC joining the Big Ten. It just basically changes the dynamics in terms of the national and international attention being paid.
Great. Well, that's a good segue, I think, into let's talk about the universities and colleges, and obviously USC, UCLA, drive the majority of that revenue. But what I found was interesting in the report was the creation of all of the different degrees around sports, kind of career track for kids that are entering colleges, and the amount of them is just really impressive. So I would imagine that's going to continue to funnel into job growth, but can you give a little bit more about that?
Yeah. For economic developers like ourselves, again, we're looking at the future. As we're looking at the economy changing very quickly, jobs are being replaced. The traditional jobs are not going to be always available. Additionally, we're also seeing a lot of our next generation workers are no longer interested in the same type of jobs that were of the prior years. So also AI is going to be changing the landscape heavily. With the good, I'll give you some of the challenges that we're facing as a region as well. Another thing we've been tracking is population changes. In Los Angeles in particular, prior to COVID, we had about 10.2 million residents in LA County. As of today, we have about 9.8. By 2028, 2030, we're expecting about 9.7, 9.5 million people. That's about 700,000 less people than we had prior to COVID. Additionally, we're also facing a large number of retirees over the next 5-10 years. So the entire the talent development system, the pipeline will be completely different. So we really need to start focusing on the industries that we want to attract and making sure our next generation of workers are prepared to be in those industries. So again, sorry, I'm giving you the background behind this, but going back to your question, that's why it's so important to work with our education sector, our academic sector, whether they're community colleges, Cal State universities, or UCLA, USC, Loyola Marymount University, Pepperdine, so on and so forth. In LA alone, we have about 118 higher education institutions here. So we graduate a lot of different folks, but we want to make sure that they are trained properly so they actually have a good career path. And that's why these degrees are being offered are so interesting, because we're attracting now a lot of new students coming into this sector. We have about 370 annual completions in sports, business, and communication, about 2,600 in kinesiology. So this sector is actually supporting a lot of different types of career path. And as we heard earlier, I was very interested in the two gentlemen who spoke before us with Smurf and also Tap to Interact. That's another sector we're looking at very carefully. Innovation. How do you basically look at the cross-sector between tech, innovation, and sports and entertainment combined together? You'll see that there's going to be new interaction opportunities. So for the next generation of workers, they're looking at technology. How do you basically create these new programs? But at the same time, how do you interact with fan base? We're going to be bringing, not only for the major sporting events, but also the regular games, millions and millions of visitors. So as they're coming in, how do you interact? And once you get the data, what about cybersecurity? What about data security? Who's going to be managing that? That's billions and billions of dollars of contract for small businesses. How it's going to be available.
We are one of the only states where high school kids can get paid for NIL. Obviously, with the amount of universities and colleges we have here, I would think that would also drive some great revenue. How has the NIL landscape just changed the overall impact to the economy here?
Yeah, so I think giving more opportunities and more visibility and more earning potential is going to basically drive more folks into this sector. The viability of actually making a good living before you become professional is becoming a real reality. And with that, there's also going to be additional opportunities where there's innovation, investments, their contribution. So you're going to, especially for a region like Los Angeles, where you have such a huge fan base, where you can interact with your fans, these are new opportunities that are going to be available. So we're seeing a completely new industry that should be developing out of this that has not yet been tapped into. So for all the attendees here, this is time to start thinking through how will you be part of this ecosystem when those technology are going to be available? Will you create the new technology for that interaction so that we can actually engage with fans in a completely different way? I'll say that, for example, we've been watching very closely a number of different sports teams. I believe Angel City Football Club with Julie Ehrman previously in one of the panels mentioned that they use artificial intelligence as a way to start identifying how do they engage with fans, especially diverse fan base like Los Angeles. So knowing that technology is now becoming a part of this entire equation, this is where it becomes very exciting. How do we get the education system to train our next generation of workers to interact with this new potential?
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing that's not really covered in the report, I think it's not factored into the numbers, but still is a huge contributor to our economy, is the events. I think last year when we were sitting here talking, we were talking about Taylor Swift's Eras Tour at SoFi and the U.S. Open at LA Country Club, and we obviously bring in a lot of one-off types of events. Can you give us an overview of just kind of how that contributed, what events contributed over the last year, and then what we have coming and expectations?
Yes, let me pull up the numbers here. They're actually really good numbers here, and I have to find the right. So I was mentioning Long Beach Grand Prix is a regular occurrence that brought in over 200,000 visitors to Long Beach and the surrounding region, right? Dave, with Genesis Open, thank you, 60,000 attendees that came for the Genesis Open, and this attracts a lot of new fans and enthusiasts. So there are a lot of these types of events that we don't even focus on as much as we should, because I think the focus is on the Olympic Games and Paralympic Games and FIFA World Cup. But meanwhile, I was mentioning between CONCACAF, between the major events. And by the way, when we have these amazing stadiums, when we're not having sporting competitions with the professional sports teams, or when we're not having these major sporting events that are coming here, and we're not having Taylor Swift and Beyonce and other folks like Blackpink coming to perform, esports become a part of this equation as well. So this is now the intersection between, and then the previous speaker mentioned that a little bit, right? The gamification and the gaming sector is now tied in very closely. So that's why we want to turn this into a sports and entertainment sector. It's not just sports by itself. It's that we have to look at how everything ties in very closely together and turn it into a full industry so we can take advantage of it. I'll also mention one thing. We talked about how we are the top two, in my mind it's number one, sporting economy in the entire world right here. However, just remember, we haven't always had that. The Rams and the Chargers weren't always here, right? LA Football Club wasn't always here, Angel City wasn't always here. So we have to continue to make sure that we're competitive, or else other regions would die to have a portion of what we have, and they will be very competitive, and they will poach from us. So in order for us to basically make sure this is happening, we need to make sure that we align the sector and make sure the sector partners are taken care of so that they want to be here. This is a huge fan base, but we can't take it for granted.
And we need to expand continually, right?
Yes.
So what do we have coming? We've got some new teams coming in, right?
Yeah, so between 3-on-3 basketball, between rugby, I think last year we were talking about the Rugby Football Club of Los Angeles that recently had a merger now with the Legions combining with San Diego. That's going to cover all of Southern California. Those are new opportunities for us. I think a lot of folks don't see Los Angeles with some of the international sports like rugby, and then also with the Olympic Games. Don't forget that we're going to be introducing cricket for the first time to Olympic sports. Now, this is drawing a lot of great attention, especially from some of the largest populations in the entire world, between India and other countries that are very much focused on cricket. This is becoming a huge opportunity for them to enter this market as well. So we're going to see a lot of new sports being developed here. Pickleball, for not the major league, but the thing is there are a lot of other sporting teams that will be entering this region as well. So, and then lastly, we have a lot of international soccer leagues that are paying a very close attention to this market because of our population size. So we see a lot of huge potential when it comes to sports. And then I'll just add one more aspect. Whenever there's sports, I also want to add the business opportunity of sports technology as well.
Okay, so I guess I'm going to ask one last question. What are you most excited about in this next year?
And then next year, I would say I'm most excited about because once you start getting, the clock is ticking. We're 2.5 years away from the Olympic Games. We're less than a year away from FIFA World Cup. It's the excitement that's going to be building over the next 2.5 years in terms of how do we make Los Angeles the global center of sports technology, of sports entertainment sector. So rather than one single event, I'm excited about getting all of you to be excited as well and start getting ready for telling the LA story. Right before FIFA World Cup and right before the Olympic Games, you're gonna see international media attention because a lot of their broadcasting team will be here looking for stories, and they don't have a clue that we have 88 different cities in Los Angeles. They don't know that, for example, Century City is not a city. Century City is not a city, or that West Hollywood is an own independent city and Hollywood is a neighborhood, and why is there not a South Hollywood when there's a North Hollywood, right? Those are the things that are very confusing to our international partners. We need to tell our story to make sure that they know they can invest here. They can invest in all 88 cities and that this is gonna be a large region. So the gear up for what's going to be happening next to put us on the global stage is what I'm really, really excited about. And then that's a bit of a cop-out to your question. But when it comes to sporting events, I would say that I'm also very excited about what the Olympic Games will do for this entire region, and to have beach volleyball right here back in Southern California where really it's the birthplace of that. It's going to be amazing for this entire region that we can tell that story.
Anything else you want to add?
I would say this is really a call to action. I think for economic developers, again, as with what Matt was mentioning before, I get excited about the data, but it's not so much about the data, but about the narrative and the story. We don't tell that story enough. Other folks are telling the story for us, and so we have to basically let folks know that we're one of the top 2 sports entertainment sector in the entire world. And because of that, we need to take our rightful place on the national, international stage, owning the development of that and turning this into business opportunities and job opportunities for our communities as well. So this is our way of asking all of you to start getting the data, creating your own narrative and your story, so when our international partners are coming, they can call you, and basically we have a lot of these amazing stories about new technology, new companies, new work, new sports teams that are coming through, so we can showcase to the rest of the world how great LA is.
I love it.
Okay.
Everyone, please take a look at the report when it comes out. Thank you to you and LAEDC for putting the report together. Last year, I ended this with a Go Dodgers, and we won the World Series, so go Dodgers.
Go Dodgers.